when you're put with the right people, when you're put with these really professional people in Nashville, I think they're going to bring out the best in me, and I may just actually like my own stuff.
Viewers around the country may remember the moment when John Foster stepped onto the American Idol stage, not as a polished superstar, but as a small-town kid who somehow carried the weight of a lifetime of stories in his voice. And now in 2025, the silence he has kept since leaving the show has finally been broken, with revelations that leave even longtime fans stunned because his path after the finale turned out to be far from predictable. Instead of vanishing into obscurity or instantly becoming a chart-topping machine, Foster has taken turns that no one saw coming, blending grief, determination, and resilience into a new chapter that shows what happens when fame, tragedy, and opportunity collide in ways no scriptwriter could ever design. And while many Idol contestants fade quickly, Foster has managed to spark rumors, stir controversies, and leave breadcrumbs of mystery that make audiences ask the question that drives today's report. Where exactly is John Foster now, and why does his story still feel unfinished? To understand where Foster stands today, you first have to know where he came from, because his journey began not in a glittering studio, but in the quiet lanes of a small Midwestern town where local coffee shops and church stages were his first performance halls. And unlike some Idol hopefuls who arrive with managers or professional backgrounds, Foster's earliest music moments were forged in the most ordinary of places. But it was precisely this ordinariness that made his voice so extraordinary when millions first heard it. Judges were caught off guard at his audition, not because of theatrics but because of the raw sincerity that seemed to carry scars from a life already touched by heartbreak. And as the season unfolded, viewers began learning about his past, including the devastating loss of his close friend Maggie, whose memory became the emotional anchor for his performances, reminding audiences that this was not just another contestant chasing fame, but a young man channeling grief into music in ways that resonated deeply. In a landscape filled with flash, Foster stood out by being understated yet powerful, and that authenticity would carry him through the highs and lows of Idol. When Foster reached the live shows, it was clear he had tapped into something beyond vocal technique, and his defining moment came when he performed "Tell That Angel I Love Her," a gut-wrenching tribute to Maggie. And in that instant, the entire auditorium seemed to hold its breath, with even the judges visibly shaken, Lionel Richie wiping his eyes and Katy Perry commenting that she hadn't felt that kind of raw emotion in years. A response that instantly elevated Foster from talented singer to emotional storyteller. Fans flooded social media calling him the heart of the season. And while Idol has often produced powerful performances, very few have carried such personal weight, making Foster not only a contestant but a vessel for shared grief and healing. That night cemented his place in the season's narrative and proved that for him the stage was more than a competition platform, it was a memorial. And though this fueled his momentum, it also raised the stakes dramatically, because now every performance carried the burden of expectation. And behind-the-scenes insiders whispered about the toll it was taking on his mental strength. But Foster pressed on, creating an arc that was impossible to ignore and leading fans to believe he could actually win it all. Yet when the final votes were tallied, Foster finished runner-up to Jamal Roberts, a result that split the Idol community down the middle, with many viewers convinced that Foster had been robbed and taking to Facebook groups and comment threads to air suspicions about unfair voting or favoritism, while others argued that Roberts simply had more mainstream appeal. Foster, for his part, handled the outcome with remarkable composure, giving interviews where he emphasized gratitude for the journey rather than bitterness at the result. But beneath the polished statements, there was an unmistakable undercurrent of tension as fans demanded answers, and the speculation about what he would do next only grew louder. Within weeks, he was back in the studio, teasing tracks on Instagram, giving subtle hints about collaborations, and making appearances that suggested he was testing waters in both country and pop. Yet the narrative around him was no longer just about his music, but about whether he could translate Idol momentum into a lasting career. Because the history of the show is littered with near winners who never quite broke through, and Foster's supporters were determined to prove he would not join that list. Then came the curveballs, because just as people thought they had him pegged as the next predictable Idol graduate releasing safe singles, Foster began dropping cryptic social posts with moody black and white images, captions like "Patience pays" and "Songs come when the time is right," leaving fans dissecting every word as if he were a puzzle. And those teases gained even more traction when he appeared alongside Carrie Underwood at the Grand Ole Opry. An unexpected reunion that instantly sparked theories that Foster was positioning himself for a country crossover, a move that would shock viewers who had mostly seen him as a pop balladeer on Idol. The speculation only grew when whispers surfaced that producers were interested in him for television appearances beyond music, including Dancing with the Stars, suggesting that Foster was intentionally keeping doors wide open rather than rushing into a single lane. And this willingness to surprise audiences kept him relevant even months after the Idol season wrapped, proving that mystery can be as valuable as output in the age of constant social media chatter. But these unexpected moves also carried risk, because in a world where fans crave constant content, taking too long to deliver can cause momentum to vanish. And Foster's team seemed to be playing a delicate game of building anticipation while holding back the full reveal. But behind the excitement, a darker conversation has also followed Foster, with persistent online chatter that the Idol finale was rigged or at least tilted against him, a narrative fueled by his emotional performances and the belief that audiences connect more deeply with authenticity than polish. And while no official evidence has ever surfaced, the sheer volume of fan posts insisting he should have won turned into a controversy of its own, making Foster both a symbol of resilience and a lightning rod for conspiracy theories. At the same time, others focused less on the outcome and more on the ongoing impact of Maggie's death on his artistry, noting that the grief that once gave him power might also weigh him down if he couldn't find balance, because carrying loss into every performance is both cathartic and exhausting. Critics wondered aloud whether he would be able to build an identity beyond tragedy, while supporters countered that his very willingness to be vulnerable set him apart from cookie-cutter artists. And in interviews he walked a fine line, acknowledging his pain while insisting he was moving forward. Yet the rumor mill continues spinning, with whispers that labels are both intrigued and cautious, unsure if Foster is a long-term investment or a fleeting emotional story. And all of this only adds to the sense that his next move could redefine him for better or worse. So where is John Foster in 2025? The answer is that he is not hiding, but neither is he flooding the market with half-baked releases. Instead, he is quietly crafting new material, confirmed through Instagram teases and subtle hints in interviews, and his recent words suggest a man who understands the stakes, saying that he does not want to rush but wants to make music that truly matters, a statement that both excites and frustrates fans eager for more. He has spoken about reconnecting with his roots, spending time with his dog, leaning on family, and finding the kind of balance that fame often destroys. And while this may sound simple, it is precisely this groundedness that may become his greatest strength as he prepares a full-scale comeback. Industry insiders speculate that an album announcement is imminent, while others believe he may first test waters with high-profile collaborations, especially given his ties to established artists like Carrie Underwood. And whichever route he takes, it is clear that Foster is approaching the next phase of his career with the same combination of caution and sincerity that defined his Idol journey, leaving both critics and fans leaning in to see if he can turn near victory into long-term success. In the end, John Foster's story is not simply about losing or winning a televised competition. It is about what happens when a young man carries grief into the spotlight, and then has to decide whether to be defined by that grief or to build something new from it. And as of 2025, he seems determined to write his next chapter on his own terms. His path so far has been filled with surprises, from emotional tributes to cryptic hints, from runner-up debates to country crossover speculation. And yet the thread tying it all together is his refusal to disappear quietly. Because while the Idol crown may sit on another's head, Foster's journey continues to draw attention in ways that prove music careers are marathons, not sprints. The question that remains is, what will he deliver next? A heartfelt debut album, a genre-bending collaboration, or perhaps a step into television that no one saw coming? And that is where the mystery lies, because Foster has mastered the art of keeping audiences curious, and curiosity is the most powerful currency in entertainment. So as we close this report, one thing is clear. John Foster may not have taken the Idol trophy, but his silence has now been broken, and the story he is writing in 2025 may turn out to be far bigger than the competition that first introduced him. What do you think? Is Foster headed for superstardom, or will his story remain one of what-ifs? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this.